I'm Sally Ann Stone and welcome to Quick EFT Part 3. And the topic for this one is how to peel an onion. So I'm sure you're familiar, or you may be familiar with the metaphor of peeling an onion when people are talking about peeling away the various issues around a problem and trying to get to the core of the issue underneath. So it's a metaphor that's commonly used in things. And it's really important with using EFT that you try to get to the core of the issue. That's really, really, really important. So I'm going to illustrate 3 approaches for getting to the core of the issue. Now, one of these is a commonly used approach, which I'm sure you're familiar with. The first approach, which I'm going to demonstrate, I call the ruminating storyteller. And this approach often happens at night. And it may be that we're lying in bed and we may be thinking about something, and then we think about it and it goes through our mind, and then we think of another angle on it and we worry a little bit about this, and she said this and he said that, and we go over it and we're trying desperately to problem solve it. But we end up feeling like we're a mouse on a wheel and we're going around and around and we're often not really getting anywhere. So in terms of how to peel an onion, this is strategy 1, and I call it, as I said, the ruminating storyteller. And I'm going to do a demonstration with all of these particular approaches. I'm going to do a demonstration. So I'm going to ask my prop person, my assistant Paul, just to hand me the tools to demonstrate how to peel an onion, the ruminating storyteller approach. Now for this, if you want to try this yourself at home, you will need 2 things. You will need an onion and you'll need an old shoe. So with this, you are going to have the onion here, and then you're going to try peeling the onion, and what you're going to do is you're going to have the shoe and you're going to hit the onion with the shoe. Okay? And you might notice that it's kind of not working really well. And the reason for that demonstration, and you're welcome to try it yourself, because you may think that perhaps it is going to work if you've got a different shoe, if you've got a newer shoe, a prettier looking shoe. You may think it's going to work, and you're welcome to try it out. But the point I'm making is it's amazing how when we analyse things and go into analytical mode and think and go over it and go in from every angle and create a little story around things, how we actually don't get anywhere and certainly don't get to the core of the issue. So I'm going to give 2 of these props back. I'm going to give the shoe to Paul now, and I'm going to get my next prop, and I'm going to explain approach number 2. Now, this approach is an approach that does work. And Gary Craig, who developed EFT, had this terrific question. And the question that you'll ask, and I'll often ask this if I'm with clients, is, what does this remind you of? And it's a very powerful question. I may say, what does this remind you of? I might say, who does this remind you of? And I'm amazed by how often clients, there will be like the lights come on. Like people will be reminded perhaps of something their parents said to them when they were a child, or something that comes up for them. So it's actually a really powerful question. So I'm going to show you how this works. And this is quite a good approach, because you can see in the demonstration for this one, you have an onion and you have a knife, and you can cut the ends off like this, and then you can cut down the side a bit, and you'll find that the onion peels quite well. Although I'm not actually doing it very well here. But, eventually the peels will come off the onion, because that's actually quite a good question and it does work quite well. But I'm also now going to demonstrate, I'm going to give this back to Paul, my assistant, who's going to give me the last tool plus the next things, plus the breadboard. So the last approach that's used is the technique that I call the worst part. And I may be tapping with a client, and often when I begin tapping with a client, we'll just be tapping here together. And before we do a round of tapping, we're trying to work out what to target. And we may be talking about an issue, and I'll say to the client, well, what's the worst part of that? And the client will say, well, this and that and this and that. And then I'll say, well, what's the worst part of that? And they'll say this and that. I'll say, well, what's the worst part about that? And I keep digging and digging and digging to get to what's actually underneath. And if the person isn't really connecting to their feelings about the situation that they're talking about, I may say, well, what's the worst feeling in that situation? Now, this is a brilliant technique that I find incredibly helpful in terms of working out how to target a particular issue to then do some rounds of tapping on. And I'm going to show you this approach because this works really well. And in fact, my assistant will need to provide me with the knife because whilst this is very important, we do need one other tool as well. So first of all, like in the previous situation, you're going to need an onion, you're going to need a knife, and you're also going to need an actual apple corer. And for this, you're going to cut off the ends of the onion. We have the ends off very beautifully. I'm going to give the knife to my assistant. And then we have the apple corer. And with the apple corer, you're going to stick this right down on the onion. That's right, it's worked brilliantly because we have used the worst part question. And look at that. We've gotten right to the core of the onion. The core issues are right here. So what I would say is remember that you can always go into and ask yourself, what is the worst part of that? And when you do that, often you'll find underneath that you get to the kinds of feelings like feeling unloved, feeling like nothing, feeling unimportant, feeling neglected. Those kinds of things are the things that you get to when you're really about to create a significant shift. So I suggest that you might want to try out any of these approaches. I think you'll probably find the latter two are actually more helpful. And let me know, how do you peel an onion? How do you get to the core issues for yourself? And I encourage you to let me know how you're getting on, but also to watch the next video. The next video is about EFT as extreme sport. And this is full-on EFT, and I encourage you to watch that. So thanks for watching. Bye.